Hello, you're watching news from Kazakhstan, and I am Nurbek Savitakhunov. The Goethe Medal for the Development of Cultural Relations in the German Language was awarded on Tuesday, August 28th, in the city of Weimar. A Kazakh citizen is receiving this prize for the first time. It is stage director and head of Aksaray Theater, Bolat Atabayev. A month prior to the ceremony, he was arrested on charges of inciting social hatred in Zhanaozen and jailed in Aktau. Later, he was requalified as a witness and released. More on the German award in the next report.
The Goethe Medal awarded by the administration of the Goethe Institute is one of the most important awards for the German civil society. The winners of the 58th ceremony were a Lithuanian teacher Irena Veisaitė, Bosnian writer Dževat Karahasan, and Kazakhstan stage director Bolat Atabayev. Most guests and reporters paid extra attention to the Kazakh artist. Just recently, the campaign for Bolat Atabayev's release from detention has swept across Germany, and everyone felt the need to greet the director and express their support. The 2012 ceremony took an unusual turn as the welcoming speeches of the Goethe Institute director Weimar Mayor and even the Minister of State all referred to Bolat Atabayev's detention and his confrontation with the regime in Kazakhstan. Cornelia Piper, the Minister of State of the Federal Foreign Office, called the life of the Kazakh director an outstanding example of dedication. She said she was proud of his civil position and the courage he displayed.
Herr Atabayev sind dafür ein ganz aktuelles.
Bolat Atabayev was arrested in 2012 for supporting oil workers in Zhanaozen riots. However, only few people know that you have also supported other oppositionists. We are amazed that after being released from prison, you were about to go on a hunger strike demanding the release of your friend, young reporter Bolat Mamai, who imprisoned still. It proved your civic courage and bravery.
Aber was vielleicht einige nicht wissen.
The audience burst into applause when the time came to award Bolat Atabayev. The official order was violated as photographers rushed to the winner, who could not start his speech because of a long-standing ovation. Everyone in the attendance seemed to be hypnotized by the speech of Bolat Atabayev, who expressed his gratitude to the Goethe Institute for the support and long-term cooperation. The stage director spoke about the role of Germany in his life. He cited the poem Karangtunge Galiptau as an example of languages and cultures fusion. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe wrote Wanderer's Nacht-Lied. Mikhail Lermontov translated the poem into Russian, and 50 years later Abay Kunanbayev wrote the Kazakh version.
Uykuga ketir balbara dalını jam-jırt del salgıp tün basadı sabıra.
German actors who worked with Atabayev in Temirtau and Almaty in the 1980s and 1990s were the first to congratulate the director with the award. We are so happy to see each other again. Thanks to our Kazakh friends, we have gathered together. In his speech, Bolat said that he had learned a lot from us, but we also have learned a lot from him. He has the spirit of a fighter. It was the right thing to do. We reunited a few days ago, and I told him that if I were in Almaty, I would be with him in Zhanaozen. Representatives of the Goethe Institute in Kazakhstan were also present in Weimar. The head of the institute, Barbara Frenkel-Thonet, personally applied Bolat Atabayev for the award, and thus was very happy that such a worthy person was chosen this year as a recipient of the Goethe Medal.
Well, I'm sure the ceremony shows what a strong holds the German culture, how important the German culture is for Atabayev, and how highly he is honored in Germany. And the medal, of course, is received for the cultural cooperation for many, many years.
The winner himself was quite humble. Atabayev said he had a feeling that the Goethe Medal would become a kind of a shield protecting him from prison and persecution on the part of the Kazakh authorities. And even on such a happy occasion, the stage director couldn't stop thinking about Mangistau oil workers and social activists who are currently facing trials.
Я благодарил Бога, благодарил Goethe, благодарил Abaya.
I thanked God, thanked Goethe, and thanked Abay. 3 days ago, I went to the castle where Anna Amalia patronized art. I was sitting on the lawn there and asked the spirits of Abay, Goethe, and Anna Amalia to help us get through these difficult times for Kazakhstan and release oil workers Vladimir Kozlov, Serik Sapargali, and Akjan Ataminov.
Чтобы они помогли нам пережить наше трудное время в Казахстане и освободить нефтяников Володю Козлова, Серика Сапаргали и Акжана Таминова.
This morning, Bulat Atabayev will fly to Berlin, where he will hold a series of meetings with members of the German parliament to discuss the issues of Zhanaozen residents. The stage director will ask for German culture and political activists to visit Kazakhstan, see everything for themselves, and perhaps help the people accused of organizing riots in obtaining a fair and impartial trial.
Also on Tuesday, human rights activist Vadim Kuramshin was released in the courtroom. Jurors found the activist not guilty of extortion, after which the judge reclassified the charges and ruled to sentence Kuramshin to 1 year in prison for usurpation of power. However, given that the defender has already served most of his time, it was decided to release him from custody.
One of the most notorious trials has finished today. Prominent human rights advocate Vadim Kuramshin has been charged with large-scale extortion. The prosecutor demanded 14 years of imprisonment in a maximum security facility for Vadim. The lawyer insisted on his client's absolute innocence. No one expected the outcome. First of all, I want to thank my brilliant lawyers, my mother and Iskander. They have achieved the impossible. I could not rely on any law in this country because our state is lawless. Ordinary citizens here have no rights, absolutely. The rights and permissiveness are only enjoyed by Blaze officials who had put me here. The judge banned audio and video recordings during the verdict announcement. Even though it appears the jurors were unanimous in their opinion of Kuramshin's innocence, the judge decided to requalify the charge to arbitrariness, punishable by 1 year imprisonment. Since Vadim Kuramshin has already spent most of the term in the detention center, he was freed in the courtroom. Lawyer Iskander Alimjanov is seemingly in disbelief that the trial ended so well. Several months he has been trying to prove that his client was unfairly charged and judged. After the prosecutor asked for 14 years, it seemed that the chances of fighting the system have vanished completely. Now the defender jokes before this day he was an atheist, but after the unexpected decision of the judge, he will definitely go to the mosque. The judge has qualified Vadim's actions as arbitrariness and sentenced him to 1 year imprisonment at a place of his residence, which is Petropavlovsk. Taking into account that he has already spent 7 months in detention, Vadim was released in the courtroom. Literally half an hour before the verdict announcement, Vadim Kuramshin's mother Olga was not holding back tears. She traveled between two cities, Petropavlovsk and Taras, for 7 months and has been waiting for the court decision, hoping that justice prevails. The defense took the case apart. It is obvious that it had no foundation. He was just a nuisance and they decided to exact a revenge because he went against the penitentiary system. Indeed, he went through everything himself: torture, humiliation, insults, and I felt all this as well. I'd come for a visit and they wouldn't give me an appointment, even though it had been scheduled. I'd get all of these parcels together, sacrifice a lot of things so that he could have something of a treat, but they'd say, "Come next Monday." Vadim Kuramshin was arrested on January 23rd in the town of Korday of Zhambul region, which he visited at a request of a local businesswoman who complained about the pressure from the prosecutor's office staff. The prominent activist was looking into the case of systematic bribery at the customs, however, ended up a suspect himself. Kuramshin was detained on charges of extortion from the assistant prosecutor of Korday prosecutor's office, Mukhtar Udirbayev. Andrei Sivko, a journalist following this case, points out a number of procedural violations and instances of tampering with evidence that lawyers managed to uncover during the investigation. The court was supposed to make sure all witnesses show up, but it placed the responsibility on the lawyers. The entire case is so far-fetched. With the firm evidence at hand that the prosecutor was taking a bribe, they, for some reason, are charging a human rights activist instead.
Почему-то судят правозащитника, а не прокурора.
While in the detention center, the activist wrote open letters to the media and the nation's leader. The protests in support of corruption took place in different cities of the world. Now everyone wants to personally call the human rights defender and talk to him about the trial victory.
Большое спасибо, Димыч. Да.
This is the first normal lunch with friends and family in a while. In several hours after his release, Kuramshin glanced at the justice system in a new light. He believes he was saved only by the presence of jurors who didn't believe in his guilt from the get-go. The jury court is now the only mechanism that is still under citizens' control, but I'm afraid that with the decisions like this, when our system will purge itself from such a discomfort.
Избавить себя от такого дискомфорта, как жюри присяжных.
In total, Vadim Kuramshin has spent 7 months in the detention center. During this time, he had a chance to learn about criminal cases of his cellmates. Now that he is free, Kuramshin is determined to help them, believing that some of them were detained illegally.
The trial over inciting social hatred with Vladimir Kozlov, Serik Sapargali, and Akshanat Aminov continued with interrogation of witnesses for the prosecution. In the first half, those summoned to the courtroom included former head of NSDP Azad Party in Zhanaozen, Yestai Karashayev, former chairman of the Union of Wealth Service Management No. 5 Maxim Yesinbayev, and civil activist Natalia Azhagalieva. Two witnesses were questioned fairly quickly, while Azhagalieva's replies caught many off guard. Quote, people arrived completely unprepared, end quote, were the oil strike activists' opening words, alluding to the defendants. According to Azhagalieva, the oil workers were misled by those who came from afar. They always promised to help, she says, but only fueled the situation. They did not need our problems to be solved. They only needed PR, stated Azhagalieva. It is worth noting that, for the most part, Natalia Azhagalieva was questioned by the defense. Perhaps it happened because for a long time the woman called on the others to launch an indefinite strike until labor disputes are resolved. However, this time Azhagalieva speaks the opposite, trying to put the blame for Zhanaozen tragedy entirely on the defendants. Apparently they failed to deliver on their promise, said Azhagalieva, at the same time confirming that she was receiving financing. The woman explained that she did not appeal to the ruling party because Nuratan members never promised anything to the people. Public activist Jasar Al-Kwanashadin called these testimonies a blatant lie. He said that Azhagalieva is shamelessly trying to protect herself at the expense of others who have helped her in the past. The questioning lasted almost the entire day. At times, the witness refused to answer the defense's questions or attempted to parry them, receiving numerous comments from the judge on this account. Later on, Azhagalieva resorted to personal remarks, forcing the defense attorney Alexei Plugov to lodge a motion to assess the mental state of the witness. The motion was rejected and the judge announced a 5-minute break for the witness to recover her senses. On Wednesday, the court summoned Ayjan Gulamirova, the former party associate of Vladimir Kozlov. The public activist promised reporters to give a detailed interview after the court session.
Просто-напросто предают тех, кто их поддержал, кто им протянул руку помощи.
Who supported them, who gave them a helping hand, and who risked themselves when they were on strike, standing up for their rights. And now they simply betray these people. Now they shamelessly blame the defendants, including Vladimir Kozlov, Serik Sapargali, Akshanat Aminov, and others, for not solving their problems. But they simply weren't in the position to do that. The authorities are the ones in charge. Basically, instead of blaming the authorities, they shift the blame to the defendants, who were in fact helping them in their fight against the authorities to defend their basic constitutional, civil, and human rights.
В отстаивании своих элементарных прав, конституционных, гражданских, человеческих прав.
Freedom House declared violations in the trial over opposition members in Aktau. First, the human rights organization points to the fact that the trial is conducted in state language, with the defendant Kozlov and several witnesses who do not speak it in full, while the interpreter sometimes provides misleading or incomplete Russian translations. Freedom House also notes that mobile phones are confiscated from visitors at the entrance, and personal information is recorded, which has not been agreed upon in advance. Court staff attempted to search attorneys, which is prohibited by law. In addition, the defense received the indictment only a day before the trial and had no time to familiarize itself with it. Meanwhile, the outcome of another trial upset both the prosecution and the defense. The sentencing of 17 former BTA bank employees was left unchanged. Bankers were convicted of varying prison terms for aiding their former head Mukhtar Ablazov, membership in an organized criminal group, as well as embezzlement of bank funds. On Tuesday, attorneys and relatives were surprised how the judge managed to read 700 volumes of the criminal case in just 10 days of the trial, and leave the sentence unchanged under the now defunct statutory provision.
17 former employees of BTA Bank will continue serving their 5 to 8 years prison terms after the court upheld its previous verdict on Tuesday. The decision came as a surprise to attorneys and families of convicts who say the prosecutors have failed to indicate the amount of financial loss inflicted by BTA despite the case having 730 volumes. It is also not clear how ordinary bank employees could have helped Mukhtar Ablyazov withdraw funds from his own bank. The defense hoped that the court will take into account that the criminal code article used in the case was removed last year, but officials have a history of tedious litigation with Ablyazov, who is now accused of organizing a criminal group. According to attorneys, perhaps this recent issue had influenced the outcome of the case of his former subordinates. There are a lot of questions about this case. However, we understand that prosecutors have their own reason, as otherwise Ablyazov and others will be left without their groups, which would break the case apart. Therefore, they have no other choice but to convict them based on non-existent law. 3 years ago, the state nationalized BTA Bank. Its owner, while fleeing the country, accused the authorities of raiding, and in return, criminal cases were instigated against Ablyazov and his managers. The prosecutors insisted that bank employees and its clients assisted the financier in withdrawal of funds from the bank. In May of this year, Almaty's Medeo District Court sentenced 21st employee of BTA to prison term with confiscation of property. At the new hearings, the families and attorneys hoped for the prosecutors to produce any conclusive evidence of their convicts' complicity, embezzlement, and property theft, or admit the failure of all allegations. We were not able to examine the case files, and just like you, we asked them about the amount of incurred losses. We requested them to launch a banking and financial probe, but on one condition: the experts have to be independent from the bank or the investigation. They must be able to calculate the inflicted loss. On Tuesday, it was reported that Dmitry Solodukhin and Zhanna Akhmedyarova went on a hunger strike in prison. On August 1st, they attempted to draw the president's attention to the case of BTA Bank and warned that they are ready to pursue extreme measures. In the meantime, prisoners' families announced the creation of a public committee which will oppose the judicial tyranny. The activists plan to hold rallies in support of their loved ones.
President Nursultan Nazarbayev is once again nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize, this time by Japanese deputies. The proposal was voiced at a rally in Simei, which was held at the international conference titled From Nuclear Test Ban to the World Free of Nuclear Weapons.
Hiroyuki Miroyama, a Japanese MP, reported that many of his colleagues are nominating the president of Kazakhstan for the Nobel Prize and hope that their voices will be heard. It is not the first time the head of state is nominated for the prestigious award. Previously, American athletes, Kyrgyzstan MPs and Kazakhstan citizens have proposed the idea.
An honorary father appeared in Astana. The title was awarded to its mayor, Imangalitas Maghambetov, by the Council of Fathers at the August meeting of teachers on Tuesday.
The Union of Fathers Public Association welcomes you into its ranks as an honorary father. Astana Mayor Imangalitas Maghambetov joked that he is already a grandfather, but accepted the title anyway. It appears there are many other honorary fathers in the capital. The council was set up only a year ago, but already held a conference and laid its own Valley of Fame. The main goal of the organization is to convince fathers to visit schools more often, forming a male environment, since that is what schools apparently lack. Judging by the speech delivered by the mayor, he is well aware of issues surrounding the contemporary educational field. As a certified teacher himself, Maghambetov urged his colleagues to introduce a course on the development of logical thinking in schools. According to the official, it was taught in Tsarist Russia, but was dropped post-revolution, since leaders of the proletariat were afraid of intelligent people. The mayor believes constantly writing essays about the seemingly immortal works of Soviet classics is politically incorrect, since they have nothing to do with the realities of modern Kazakhstan.
Зачитаю несколько из них. Итак, в 9 классе Гоголь.
Let's see some of the essay topics. 9th grade, Nikolai Gogol, The Analysis of Dead Souls, a sharp satire on the social political structure of Russia from the viewpoint of Decembrist ideology. 11th grade, students write essays on Sholokhov's Silent Dawn, about the lives of people and their struggle in the countryside during collectivization. There are many others, but it is clear that these essay topics are far from our reality.
Everyone chooses for themselves. Asyat Isikeshov does not believe other ministers should follow his example and buy Kazakh-made vehicles. A week ago, the Minister of Industry was the first to answer the president's call by switching to a Skoda Super B B6 of domestic assembly.
Observant Astana residents have noticed the new car of the government official. A Twitter users posted photos of the vehicle with the license plate 29KZ. The price tag for such cars is $37 on average. In early 2012, Nursultan Nazarbayev himself suggested the officials to purchase locally produced cars, and later it was reported that the cabinet will switch the fleet to local cars within the next 2 years. In the meantime, Mr. Keshev is apparently satisfied with his Skoda, although he prefers to walk from government buildings to another. There are so many advantages. I don't mean to advertise the vehicle, but I think it's a good car with a nice quality. Every minister decides the matter independently. I believe every vehicle's engine life is due someday. So when the day comes, they will probably switch to locally produced cars.
The 12th body found in the Ilie Alatau National Park is that of a woman. In all likelihood, it is the wife of one of 11 victims reported earlier, said Minister of the Interior after a government session. On August 13th and 14th, 11 people were found dead in the forest near Almaty. The ministry did not reveal information about the 12th victim immediately. The investigation is considering several leads of the incident, including the staying of strangers inside the cordon.
The 12th victim is not the son of the huntsman, but a wife of one of the men there.
The fire on Mount Makhnatka in Ilie Alatau Park in Almaty could have been started as a result of carelessness, stated head of the Committee of Forestry and Hunting, Irlan Nisanbayev, on Tuesday. Meanwhile, arson is not being considered as one of the leads. Nisanbayev explained that mostly tourists are found in those parts.
To recap, it took almost 2 days to combat the fire, which destroyed 21 hectares of forest near the Medeo skating rink. The trees fallen due to the last year's hurricane complicated the matters, although representatives of the Agriculture Ministry said that dry wood wasn't the primary reason for the fire. According to forestry management, smaller fires in the national park were reported as early as August 15th due to the hot weather and strong winds. The fire source is located near the tourist path that leads to Medeo. Probably someone threw a lit cigarette or a match on the grass. Everything will be cleared during the internal investigation.
The Aktobe International Airport was assaulted by 3 perpetrators who entered the airport building through the window, beat the security guard, and stole more than $6,000, reported the Regional Department of Internal Affairs on Tuesday.
A 59-year-old security guard of the Aktobe International Airport contacted the public service center of the Aktobe region and reported that 3 men wearing masks intruded the office through the window, seized his iPhone after beating and tying him up. The intruders also stole over $10,000 and €200 from the office. Without delay, the police was able to track down the 3 young men aged 18 to 22 years. The stolen money were located in their getaway car. A criminal case was later initiated on charges of robbery. One of the suspects is internationally wanted for robbery and theft committed in Aktau. The robbers are currently located in the detention center.
And finally, Olympic boxers were once again celebrated in Astana on Tuesday. Kazakhstan Boxing Federation President Timur Kulibayev and Chairman of the sports agency Talghat Yermegiyayev congratulated the athletes with their excellent results and presented them with certificates and cash prizes.
During the honorary celebration of the Olympic winner Talghat Yermegiyayev, who represented the sports agency, stayed back giving the front stage to Timur Kulibayev, who handed out monetary awards to medalists and their coaches. Kulibayev also announced the contract extension of the chief coach Mirzagali Aidjanov. The president's son-in-law seems to have forgotten that the appointment to this position is the responsibility of the head of the sports agency. Nevertheless, no one bothered to interfere, and instead everyone went on to congratulate the federation chair with excellent results of the team, temporarily forgetting about the boxers who actually brought the result home. Well, colleagues, this is the cup that Serik won. We will just hold it and, of course, give it back to Serik. Today, the Olympics winners were given a new task as the World Championship is coming up. Birjan Jakupov, who didn't get into the finals in London, doesn't lose his fighting spirit. He believes that Kazakh athletes will perform excellently in the upcoming competitions. We have great plans. The men are tired, they need a month's rest, and then they will continue to box as the World Championship is next year. We need to win a gold medal there. Talgat Yermigyaev received his share of attention later in the day. Officials and the press was curious whether the Olympics winners will receive the promised amounts of money and when this will happen. It was revealed that the money has already been allocated and the winners will be able to claim it within 2 weeks. Interestingly, the question of taxes puzzled the official. Taxes? You should ask the spokesman. Well, it is income, so I believe that... Actually, I don't know, but I think they won't pay taxes. The state would to award Olympics gold medalists with 250,000 euros each, silver medalists 150,000 euros, and bronze winners 50,000 euros. At this point, sportsmen from the country's regions have already received their money.
This is all we have time for now. Thank you for watching and see you tomorrow.